Welcome back to the Now Morning Show, our Tobago Thursday edition. Now, we all know that procrastination is the thief of time, but did you know there are different types of procrastination? On this morning's Body and You, we're going to look at how it affects your daily life, your motivation, as well as your health. And so joining me this morning is motivational speaker, Mr. Michael Stewart. Mr. Stewart, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us on Now.
Good morning. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Now, Mr. Stewart, procrastination, thief of time. Let's just jump right into it. Is there a specific definition for procrastination, and what does it look like?
Procrastination is always a delay, and it is usually a delay in many times something that is important in preference for something that is less important. So whenever there is a delay, many times we do things and we always delay them for one reason or the other, and it is habit forming. And yes, it is a thief of time.
Yeah. And this delay, you said it is almost like a preference where you're delaying something very important for something less important. How can this affect your life if you continue to procrastinate over a period of time?
Well, chronic procrastinators end up feeling a bit depressed, sad when they look back at their life and they tell themselves, I should have accomplished certain things already. And at this age of my life, I have not, because they did not put into gear some things that they should have done earlier in their lives. So it begins to create a sort of anxiety issue, depression, and a mood swing that people seem to have. And that's why it is important for us to put first things first. The things that are important, make them important. Let me show you how this happens, because sometimes we allow something that is important to go unchecked, and then it becomes urgent, such as the health. Sometimes we have a symptom and we should have dealt with something that was symptomatic, and we say, I will go to the doctor someday. And we delay, and by the time the symptom have taken root, it is now urgent. And then we could have solved something that we are now grappling with today. And procrastination causes that.
Yeah. But then how do
Assignments or
we But
yes,
then how
sorry.
do we identify the importance of the action? So for example, is it that, okay, so for example, you're saying that maybe you are going to procrastinate looking at your health or, taking care of your health. But what if it is you believe that the most important thing at that point in time is your job or your decision to travel? Then how do you know if it is you are delaying your health and, looking at something else? I mean, how do you decide which is more important then?
Well, we probably could look at the various styles of procrastination that we use. Let's take the avoider type procrastinator. This is the person who, according to Sigmund Freud, uses the pleasure principle. I will refuse to do something that I don't like and do something that I really like.
Yes.
Then it asks yourself, am I really making it as priority things that are important, or is it that I'm doing the things that I like? And if you take, for example, there are so many times people scroll through TikTok and Facebook because it is more pleasurable, but they have some important things to do. So that avoidance and the dealing with things that are pleasurable, the pleasure principle, you tell yourself, well, probably I am not making a judicious decision in my life as to categorizing the importance.
Yeah. But
So
Mr. Stewart,
avoidance
I
are
can. No, go
yes.
ahead. Let me hear you because I have an example.
So yes, well, the that of having to put something pleasurable in place.
Yes.
Sometimes we have an assignment to do. We don't like the assignment, so we put the assignment that we don't like on hold, and we put something that we do like on the priority burner.
But if it is something that we like that can help us. So for example, you had a tough day at work and you came home, right? You are working and studying, doing both at the same time. You had a very, very tough day. And maybe you see TV, maybe you see the TikTok or even reading a book as a form of escapism before you jump into what you need to do. Is that a wrong sort of procrastination, or is it that you're just delaying until you can, build up the sort of mental capacity to deal with that second action?
Well, if that is a stopgap where somebody taking a respite and they come and they take that stopgap there, that is important. That's not a pleasure principle. I'm doing it, yes, I like it. Not just because I like it means that it is wrong, but I'm doing it because it is necessary at this
Right.
time in order for me to be able to get on to another item or assignment that I do have. You understand the difference?
I understand. So the issue is if you delay too long and you let it fall to the sidelines, something very
Unnecessarily.
important.
That's right. That's
Right.
right.
Okay. And then I know you had started to talk about some of the effects this is going to have. So one of the things you mentioned is that sort of depression. What other effects can we see rather than, of course, the action not being completed? What sort of other effects can we see if somebody continues to procrastinate over time?
Well, what we have is that there are things that we have the effect of where our life goes. Um, so there are, for example, when somebody's in school, they could have applied themselves to doing their subjects and coming out of school and then moving on to their career. Many of us go back to school after school because we delayed some things in life, and then we
Mm,
see our peers go ahead of us, and then we compare ourselves to them, and we felt that we should have been there. So that brings a sort of regret, cynicism in our lives, and a malaise that makes us withdraw from even pushing, and that delays us even more because we tell ourselves probably I'm not good as the others, etc. So we now have a self image that is not healthy for us, and it all becomes because we did not look at the habit forming attitude of procrastination.
yeah. And so, how can we prevent ourselves from getting to this point, Mr. Stewart? Is it that we need to develop certain strategies in our younger age, or even as we're adults now? How can we deal with it now to prevent it from happening, let's say, within the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, as I tell my children, whenever they're doing an assignment that they don't like, because they found that students procrastinate the most when they check the people who procrastinate, students.
Right.
And I tell my children, if you hate a subject that much, try not to do it over. Give it your all, pass it, and get rid of it. But when you avoid it and you don't want to put too much effort in it, you really put yourself in a position to repeat it. So
Yes.
some of the things, just get some of the hard things out of the way and just take it a bite at a time, one at a time.
Well,
But
Mr.
then
Stewart,
that also
easier
brings
said
us
than
to,
done, especially for adults. How can I, you know what I mean? You were talking about the pleasure principle. I like doing this thing. I'm going to continue doing this thing to not do that thing. And so, how do you get that motivation to know, for example, okay, cool, it is time for me to go to the doctor. It's time for me to do certain things. Where does that motivation come from?
well, it really comes to what you put as your own priorities in life, as to how you put your schedule of things. There are some people put the happy hour as their priority in life. If that is what it is, then you are going to get the results that happy hour every evening. You're going on lime and so on, and there are things that you have to do on the house that are beginning to deteriorate. So you have to determine, and I can't say, or nobody else could say, this is more important in your life than any other. You have got to set that target. And if somebody has no aim in their life, then any port is a satisfactory port for a call. So if you do have an aim, then it must line up with your aim and your goals in your life. And once you do that, then that is going to also assist you.
It's almost going to anchor you. Okay, point noted. You also mentioned as well that you often see students who are the most or the number one procrastinators. Who is next in that line, and what sort of students do you see? For example, are you going to look at teenagers who may procrastinate more, or is there a certain age group who has that tendency to procrastinate?
Well, that group that I just spoke about, the people who do not have a direction that they're aiming in their life, they tend to procrastinate because they delay, because they are forming a habit of delay and procrastination. And you could have adults who are doing that. Somebody who wants to get married, the man who wants to propose says, listen, I want to propose, and he delays, 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 and the woman is just waiting to get married until she gets fed up and she leaves. Was that important to you in order to move your relationship to the next level? So when you check the number of people who have been courting for 11, 12 years, but planning to get married, you ask yourself, isn't this a procrastination issue? Then we say, oh, the economy, I don't have enough money, probably I'll do it next year. Those might be symptoms that you are procrastinating. And as we talk about that, we talk about we spoke about the avoider who uses the pleasure principle. This other person of the optimist says this, I have time. These are the people who usually just put off things that they should be doing now. These are usually people who are always late for work, late for an assignment, late for an appointment, because they calculate time in a kind of way that does not push them towards a goal. But if you understand that you have something to do, you are going to estimate time as important in your life and tell yourself, because I only have 24 hours, how much can I get through in 24 hours without stressing me out? That's how you process some of these things as you proceed through life.
So, Mr. Stewart, I mean, based on some of the examples that you gave, is it then a root of procrastination can also be fear?
Yes, it is. It is sometimes fear. What if I fail? What if it doesn't work out? So we come up with our own rationale and excuses why we can't do it. And I remember that sometimes I would have workers by my home and I would ask them, could you do this job for me? And they said, no, that is easy to do. I could finish that in no time. But besides fear, it is that they put it on a delay, and then by the time the end of the day, they say, okay, I'll come back tomorrow. But this fear that we have, the fear of failure, what you referred to, also pushes us to put the less important things ahead because we don't like our image to be tarnished. And there are so many things that we fear. We're supposed to apply for the job. We know that there's a deadline for it. What if they turn me down? What if I don't have the qualifications? What if they have somebody else? That rationale causes us to put some things on hold. And then I remember that there was a girl that said that she wanted a job, and she asked me if I know anybody who may be willing to hire. I called the people and said, listen, I have somebody who's looking for a job, and would you be willing to hire them? They said, well, we're willing to take her on and give her a job, even if it is temporary. 2 weeks later, when I called back the girl, did you call the people? She said, no, I think they have their own people already. And she did not know that I had the discussion with the people. And she just allowed her fear of not getting through to not apply for the job. So many people do that.
So then, Mr. Stewart, how do we deal with a procrastinator? Because I think that we have to be very careful about how we push and encourage these people. So if we notice that we have a relative, a friend who we want to push in a certain direction, how do we deal with them? How do we have that conversation with them to get them on the right track?
Well, if we help people to understand that your procrastination is a habit forming behavior, and every habit that has been formed, you can disengage that habit and form a new habit. So, is the habit working for you? When you look at your life and you look back at how much you have accomplished based upon the resources that you had, are you okay with where you are now? Yes or no? And let's say the person says, no, I'm not. Then, do you have what it takes in order to make the decisions that you can now create a better habit to get more of what you do want? It is to help them to understand that. And there are some people that they are such procrastinators, chronic procrastinators, that sometimes you have to leave them to see the ills of their habit so that the habit could be able to teach them a lesson. And then you coming now after and help them now to be able to come from that stage into the stage of life that you want. But preferably, it is to help them to see that the habit that they have of procrastinating is not working in their best interest.
Mr. Stewart, let me thank you so much for coming on the show this morning. I think we can have this conversation for 2 hours, but I think that the tips you gave us and the information that you shared is very critical and crucial. And I thank you so much for sharing it. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much for
Have a good
having me.
one. And that was motivational speaker Mr. Michael Stewart, just sharing some tips on procrastination and how you can get on the right path, on the right track to complete those very, very important actions and activities that you need to do. You're on the Now Morning Show. We're going to take a break and be right back. Stay with us.